Wrong?
I got 446.
Oh,
For
okay.
46.
Well, well, what do you know? Mine says 4:46 now, too. All right. We'll call the meeting to order of the Grand Marais Park and Recreation Board. An agenda and minutes were circulated before today by email. You all have had a chance to read them. Does anybody have any additions they would like to make or corrections to the agenda? There being no sign of any opposition or suggestion, the agenda is adopted by unanimous consent. The minutes, same request. Anybody see anything in the minutes they didn't like or want different? There being no objection noted, the minutes of the previous meeting on July 11th are now approved as distributed by unanimous consent. Next item on the agenda is the golf report, and I see Paul's maroon and gold sweater there. Are you being a golfer today?
No, I think this is a hockey kid's I don't know. I don't know what it is. Yeah, so yeah, we're all pretty tired. It's been a lot of long days and really been busy up there. The season started out good and then we went into that drought and that was really tough. And then got some pretty good rain and the course is really in good shape right now. It's good. Was playing good and we're having a lot of play out there. We just finished up our month, our month tally here, and we're up from all the other previous years, so that's good. So the trend is kind of keeps continuing to climb. I mean, I look at the month there, trying to check previous. We keep improving those numbers. Yeah, we could use some help up there. We don't have enough help inside the building. It started out where I was in the building more this year because of my back issues. And now, if I'm stuck in there all the time, don't have enough help. We've got the guys outside are kind of, they do a really good job. It's very Marais, but job that we do, so we can't really vary what they do. But anyway, we're kind of pursuing a few things there, but I don't know. We're going to need more help inside. That's all I can say. And then let's see what else notes I've got is irrigation. We've been working on our irrigation. Get these little breaks, things wear out. Stuff. And we've had Mike, the previous superintendent. He's been stopping by from time to time, which is really nice because he's now able to share some questions we have about the irrigation system. So that's been helpful. Helps us isolate areas while we need to work on them rather than draining the whole system. So that's been good. We have a problem with one of our motors. I think it's like out of warranty. It's about 2 years old. It failed a couple of years ago, and we got a replacement motor. I don't know if it's rebuilt or whatever, but there just seems to be some issue, so we're trying to track that. In the meantime, we may have to replace the motor. We still have another motor and an assist motor that we use, and we can use the motor that's giving us trouble, but it's blowing circuits, so it's got.
Are you talking about a motor that's part of the irrigation system?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we've only got 2 motors and then an assist motor. So this is on the blink, and we're looking into that. It's some money if we have to get that component. I think rather than go through the Toro MTI distributor. I think we'll just, get the parts ourselves and do it in-house, try to save a little money. We did that same thing with our golf carts this year. We had to redo all the batteries in those old the green club cars, and so we saved quite a bit of money. I mean, we stopped about 5 different places. The avenue that we saved probably about $4,000 there, so that that's pretty significant. So those are going. We've got a couple of cosmetic things that we want to do with those cards. Since they're gonna-
Is that 4,000 instead of some higher number for those batteries? Is that it?
Well, yeah. So we ended up probably more around the $10,000 figure rather than the $15,000 figure. Yeah.
Good.
So yeah, we have also stuff that's on the blink. We have one utility cart that's kind of a beefed up golf cart in a way. It's got a dump box. I use it for all sorts of things. And that had an issue where it was making a really loud clanking noise. So we ended up pulling the whole thing apart, and it turns out that all the components seem to be tight as far as the engine and the lifters and that sort of thing, but there's a blown out gasket, the exhaust, one of the exhaust ports. And so I'm thinking, we ordered just basically new gaskets. We'll just be putting it back together like that. And so I hope I'm right, because it's a lot of work taking that thing all apart. So if my guess is wrong or what the problem is, I'll be kind of eating that one for a while, I guess. But I'm pretty sure that's what the problem is. So that's good, because you can't even get a replacement motor for these things anymore. It's just really weird what's going on. So anyway, I think we'll be able to repair that as well. Yeah, we're getting a lot of new players through with people vacationing and stuff. A lot of new people that haven't played the course or have returned, and so that's good. And they're very pleased with the course and all that. And we've been able to play pretty, everything. The flow is really weird at the course. Like, it might seem like you start the day out going, what are we even open for today? And then all of a sudden it just gets slammed. So it's just, it's really weird. And we're getting more and more reservations. Your people are calling in for tee times too. So everything's just kind of slowly progressing that way. The other things we're looking at, the sprayer. I've been using my sprayer now. This is like the second year. I'm just going to put in a proposal for selling that to the course. We'll have to come up with something where I'm not involved in. I don't know what the system is, but I'm imagining it has to be a system where you guys figure out what the fair price is, and then that's what it is. But we need to probably do that pretty soon. I was looking at the odometer on that, and it's like I think it's like 900 hours on it or something, and I think it was probably around 700 when we started using it there. So I mean, it's a lot of them that if you're looking online to buy used ones stuff, you're seeing with 3,000-4,000 hours on them when people are selling them. So it's got low hours on it, so that's why I'm interested in selling that to the course, because I think it'll last a long time. And then what else? The kitchen. The health inspector came by with a strong beers thing we've been messing with for a year or two. So the inspector did come by, and he said our flooring was fine. He sent a thing up, kind of a thing up, and it came very late. But we're looking at it. Basically, what we'd have to do is take all the cupboards out of there, the lower cupboards and the countertops. Those have to be removed, and you have to put in stainless steel. Could just be tables, so it has to be stainless steel surfaces. We have to have 3 uniform sinks that are they have to have a sticker on them that says they're commercial. And we got a commercial refrigerator. Now, the refrigerator we have now is just some old Frigidaire, and it's, we can still use it for other things, I think, keeping beer cold or whatever, but,
Do I understand right, Paul, that what you're talking about, the inspector saying we need is if we want to have the licenses we're talking about, is that it?
Yeah, that's correct.
We don't
Yes.
have to do those things unless we decide to go for that license.
Yeah, thanks for
Okay.
clearing that up. Yeah, so the other component we need would be a commercial refrigerator and then a commercial oven. The one that we have in there now is just a donation from a member, and it's really kind of a throwaway unit anyway. So that's I'm kind of looking at that, and I was telling my wife about this, and she said, well, you can get that stainless steel stuff. It's on the internet all the time for sale. They have, if you look on your cell phone marketplace or whatever. So she, like the next day, she sent me a note with a bunch of stuff on it. So I think, if we want to explore that, I think it's, it possibly could be done. At that point, we'd be able to, right now it's kind of like we have Bud Light, and Busch Light, and that's it. And so, we're missing out on a lot of variety there, and people, they don't really complain about it too much anymore, but that because they already have, but I think people are expecting more of that for service, and when they find out it's 3-2 beer, they aren't happy about that either for some reason. I guess it doesn't taste as good. So anyway, that's kind of the summary on that stuff. Other looking at doing is, we're kind of looking around our practice area and looking at maybe trying to expand some things. This is nothing we're going to be doing immediately, but I might be drawing up some plans to expand some practice areas out there. We have to just, embellish irrigation a little bit and cut and filling and stuff like that. But we're looking at doing that, and I think that's about all that's I have on my kind of here. Anybody else?
With regard to the kitchen, I gather you'll be coming up with a proposal for the cost and of creating that, to see what we're talking about?
Yeah, you have to submit a plan, and of course, I noticed they gave me a form, and you can submit your plan, and there's a fee associated with that. I guess I'm not exactly sure what the fee is, but that's kind of how things are. Everything has a fee, and so I think if they accept your plan, then you implement your plan. They probably come up and examine it and clear it. So it's kind of a process, but yeah, I think it could be done. The only thing they talk about, this is what's weird, is the only thing we have to add food-wise is serving ice cream. Yet we have to completely revamp our kitchen. It doesn't make sense to me, but that's kind of the, it's what we call falling between the cracks or whatever. We're just in a weird spot here, so.
It would seem like it would make sense to have whatever proposal you were going to make before us prior to the winter season, so that we could do it after the golf season's over if we chose to go that way.
Yeah, that would be, we could certainly do that. We have plenty of time for that. So I don't think it'd be real complex or anything. But there's always going to be things that we don't know about, like they're going to say, oh, well, what about your storage area, or what about this, and what is that? So yeah, we'll do that, and I'd like to talk to the inspector, the fellow that was out once again, and I've got a couple of questions for him. But yeah, we can easily forge ahead with that, and I think it's good. This ice cream thing, so to serve ice cream, you have to have it in like a ice cream carrier, and I looked at those. Oh, those are $1,000, just to have ice cream. So I think the route we take is you can get, like more or less a crock pot sort of thing for soup. And that would also check that box. And that's probably what we'll do.
We'll look to see what you have for us sometime in September or October.
Yeah.
One question. It sounds like somebody needs to take the handle of deciding what the city wants to pay you for the sprayer. Is that something we should give to the city manager?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Mike and I can work on that.
I can talk to Mike and see how, I talked about that before and I think you'd have to, I don't know what, you'd have to look on the market and see what's out there. I mean, I've kind of taken some pictures of things that are, if it's like houses, you need comparables or comps. So if you can find things that are comparable and confirm that they were sold, what price they were sold at, then you can, maybe that would be a way to do it, I don't know.
So if the members of the board are agreeable, we could by unanimous consent ask the city manager to decide what he proposes to pay Paul and see what Paul and the manager can come up with. Is that something that the rest of you are comfortable with?
Yes.
Okay, that's what will happen then.
Yeah, that's great, yeah, because we had a sprayer kind of approved to purchase anyway, but my estimate at that time was, 15, 17,000, something like that. And then, what happened with the dollar all of a sudden, now you're looking at 28 to 34, and that's, if you can find, that's something that's, good condition, like a demonstration, something that's, it doesn't have 3,000 or 4,000 hours on it. So I'm thinking that we can probably definitely get, in the range of that, the original price with what we got, with what we're running there, right?
Paul, does the dog have something he wants to add? No. With regard to the practice area, I gather your ideas involve doing something to make it a somewhat more complicated area or more designated so you could practice sand shots or something like that. Is that the sort of thing we should look at as an idea or proposal come this late fall, early winter also?
Yeah, I'd kind of like to explore the parameters of the property there and kind of get the different things we could do,
Okay, then we'll look for a sprayer discussion and kitchen discussion and Matt.
Yeah, I just got one question. If we're talking about the kitchen, what is that going to do to your staffing needs? Is that going to increase them?
Well, they're definitely going to be fatter. That was a joke. Let's see, I would have to take a course on management. There's another course with a fee to put you in this category 2. And that's part of the protocol. And yeah, I don't think we would, we wouldn't be doing anything different unless we wanted to, and that's something we could look at if we wanted to expand the menu. I don't know if that's where we want to go with it. There's all sorts of things we could think about doing there. We could expand the menu. We could have more beer, wine. We could, have a bar there. I don't know. It's probably not big enough for a bar. But then we have a nice deck out there. We could have entertainment and a deck steam. So there's all sorts of things we could do. But yeah, we'd need more staff for that. That would be, that would be more attendant type staff.
Right, but so what you're talking about is just adding, strong beer.
Yeah, this is simply what we have to do in order.
Wow.
In order to get a license, we have to be in a category 2 with your.
Okay.
And so, but food-wise, all that they require is we only have to serve ice cream. Well, we're doing hot dogs right now, right? So it's really not a big deal. They come in there and, well, that's all you're doing, then no big deal. And so to get to this beer thing, we'd have to just serve ice cream or else like a scoop crock. There's a commercial version of that you can get for it's not like the ice cream thing, 1,000 is much less, but anyway, yeah, so those are the things you have to do to be in the protocol, I guess, so.
If I'm hearing you right, Paul, what you're saying is that if we just change the appliances to make, and the organization of it to meet the inspector's requests, that's not necessarily by itself gonna add staff cost. It will be what we do after that that will be the staffing question.
That's correct, yes. If we decide to, expand the menu, try to, have a lunch thing there, whatever I just don't know about those things, how, seems like you could lose a lot of money in the food thing if it doesn't work. So it'd be, I don't know, it'd be nice to have, people come in, they want to golf. You could, we're going to enhance their experience if they want to come in and have lunch.
Paul, you might want to check with the MGA to see what they have by way of wisdom on this subject. They probably have some people who have gone around this issue more than once.
Yeah. You can always network with people, and there's a lot of people in the MPA, so good.
And we now are members of the MGA, so we appear on their list of golf courses when people look on their website, if I understand it correctly.
Yeah, and the other thing, right now, I'm thinking about this, because, memberships is one of my categories on my budget. That's $600 to join that thing. So what are they doing for us? Well, I guess they have to come by and assess our course. Our course rating, slope rating is kind of expired, so it needs to be redone. And so that's like I think if you're calling and have them do it, it's probably like $1,500 to $2,000. But I think being a member, they'll be able to come up and do it. So that's good anyway. But beyond that, I think something that they have that, and I'm sure there's other benefits that we need to learn about. I need to talk to the representative and ask them if they give me some ideas of what we're getting for our money.
Does anybody else have any questions or comments about the golf report? Anything else you want to add, Paul, before we go on to the next item?
No.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Paul. By the way, if you take 2 swings at every shot, instead of just one, you can lower your score. I demonstrated that today. All right,
Okay.
The next item is the city council report. Craig, what do you have for us?
I guess just a continuation of our discussion. We already passed it at the city council, but we need to bring it up at the park, with the park board. And that is referring to the cannabis use throughout the city of Grand Marais. So the ordinance that we approved at our city council meeting covers the core downtown. What we did is we followed the drinking open bottle container rules and guidelines we already had in place, and we added cannabis to that, and we made it a misdemeanor for violations. But the areas involved are the core downtown waterfront, the Highway 61 corridor, the commercial residential mixed use area, and the public park land area, which includes the parking lot going out to Artist Point and the lighthouse, okay? And we also included the rec park. Well, we voted and all of us was unanimous, but then we decided that the park board should have a discussion about it and what the park board wants to do.
About the rec park.
About the rec park. About the rec park, yes. And obviously today is August 1st, so the ordinance that we did pass, ordinance 2023-4, does say in it, city-owned street, sidewalk, alley, parking lot, park, or open space. No, I don't know if they have to change that wording or not. I don't think they're gonna, but this was the second reading. And so basically what we're looking for is a discussion from the park board on how you feel about what you want to do at the rec park, knowing what the city has already done throughout the city on the city-owned and public space area.
So I have a question. What does that mean for drinking alcohol in the rec park?
It's allowed, and that's the gray area, or that's why this ordinance isn't uniform in that sense, where it's allowed at campsites and in your trailer and on your tent. And so the ordinance took care of the beachfront in a protected resource zone, similar to Artist Point and the Coast Guard and the Boulder Park and the Harbor Park, downtown park. They call that protected resource zone. And so it was applied to the campground beach and rock, sort of, waterfront, but the campsites themselves, the park itself, because we allow alcohol consumption, couldn't have that same blanket effect on cannabis. And so with a real close scrutiny of the ordinance, the campground isn't technically included in that zoning that was passed last Wednesday under that same guise of alcohol open bottle law. But that said, the sort of the impacts of cannabis use at campsites is significantly different than alcohol use in the outdoor air, right? We're going to be smelling it, very strong odors, much different than open bottle use.
Sounds like a gray area to me. I don't, so,
It is-
so
it-
campers are told so they can drink alcohol, on, outside on their own, or
In their campsites, yeah.
on the campsites,
Mhm.
but not on the sledding hill, or not on the other beaches, or, are people
Technically not on the beach. They're supposed to
any
be.
of the beaches? Huh. The pavilion?
Yeah, it's allowed. Alcohol is.
Oh. Huh.
And that again is why this ordinance isn't a catch-all for the campground itself. It is for like the public beaches, but the campsites, the campground, because alcohol is allowed, it's now back to us to determine if we want to allow cannabis or not. And, sort of never mind the ordinance of, we'll certainly mind it, but this could be a park policy, for example, or like
Okay.
a park rule, just like checkout time is noon.
Why not say nothing for a while and see what happens, rather than try to anticipate troubles that we don't know will occur or may occur?
That's been suggested.
Well, I look
I'm
at it
just
as
suggesting
just a
that we
family.
tell the city that we just as soon see what people do with the existing situation and then respond to that if there's an issue.
What'd you say, Craig?
Well, I was just thinking about, we have families down there, we have young children down there, and I just look at it as a public family
Are there places,
nuisance type thing, and we're trying to head off nuisance complaints is kind of what we're trying to do here.
I agree.
Now,
What about
whether you're
the
gonna get
bathhouse?
any or not, I don't know, but I'm just, if he doesn't have any, if there is a complaint or a nuisance complaint or whatever, then you have to come back to us and establish rules and recommendations. There'll be no way to handle that complaint. There will be no way to
Yeah,
manage
so right
it.
now, if they complain to you in the next week, what's your, you can't do much of anything.
No, can't do anything.
Well, you can always try to persuade, but
Wow.
Yeah, true, but it's,
what about bathhouses and other sort of public facilities that I would think we wouldn't want people smoking or drinking in them? Do our
And that's-
rules currently prohibit drinking alcohol in the bathing houses, or?
Oh, it's a good one. Smoking's not allowed, just because of the Clean Air Act.
Okay?
Public building, smoking's not allowed, inside, yeah.
Are there any other places that are sort of public that we would, like maybe the ball field, you don't use it there, don't drink there either?
No, softball league is the beer league.
Yeah,
Unless it's posted, if it says no drinking, it's a rule. This would basically be a rule of the park, a rec park rule, just like dogs on a leash. You're either gonna allow it or not allow it, or,
So the city passed the rule last Wednesday and then left this particular thing up to us. Is that what you're saying, kinda?
well, we kinda talked about it and we all voted in favor of adding it, or having everything in this ordinance, but then it was pulled, stating that the park board should really discuss it first before the city council voted on it. So this is the ordinance number 2023-4. I could make copies of this so you guys have it, but this is the cannabis ordinance that the city passed right here.
Yeah, I read that,
Yeah,
just
okay.
when it came out last week.
What's gonna happen at radio waves?
Well, you have to read the news release that was sent out. I don't know if it's in here.
So where does the sledding hill fall?
It's in the campground.
It's in the campground, so anything could happen. So it seems like
No,
this should-
they have to get permits from us, correct? These
For special events, yeah.
special events. They can also apply through the city for cannabis use at the special event. And that'll be a discussion that the city council would have to approve that or not approve that
They're
for
gonna
that
love
event. So I mean,
if it was not allowed,
if,
I mean,
right,
in general,
right, right. And they're,
like
in
a
that,
liquor license.
correct, like if they want to have liquor, then they have to ask and we have to allow or not allow, right.
So is this something that should be done quicker sooner rather than later?
Well, if you want to follow the city ordinance, I guess.
I mean, what do you think? What's your thoughts on it, Dave?
You know, it's, when we anticipated this in July, we talked about it as a staff, and we had sort of Steve's approach of laissez-faire, and let's see what happens, not overthinking it. See, you know, just let it play out was kind of our first instincts here, because there's already, even when it was legal, there was use, and, you know, it's pretty obvious. Biking around, walking around, you definitely catch a whiff, so, but people aren't complaining about it. And so our first instinct was to let it ride, see what happens.
Does anybody have any inclination to do anything else than that as of this meeting? And we can tell the city council that we're going to see what our experience is and then get back to them? Does that sound like a policy decision you guys are comfortable with?
I'm comfortable if you've talked about it with your staff and, I mean, yeah, I mean, if the staff is comfortable with it, and I guess to let it ride and see what happens. Maybe nothing will, you know?
Okay. The minutes will reflect that the city council requested our opinion, and our opinion is to see what happens, in part as a result of the advice of the staff.
I mean, I could also say it'd be easy or convenient to have a no cannabis use policy, and then it's easy to understand, easy to publicize, put out the signs in the bathhouses and at the front desk and let our guests know it's not allowed. And that just settles it, and then when people are into it, we can call the cops or give them a warning, or, you know, respond accordingly because the policy prohibits it, right? I feel like, yeah, we're in a bit of a pickle if people are complaining and and we haven't determined it to be prohibited. We can't respond to their complaints in the way they would like to see.
Right.
And so
They might not like the, well, we're gonna see what happens.
yeah.
Right.
And so the only alternate would be to say no and put that out there. And that would be that.
I guess I feel like if it hasn't been an issue so far that, I'd be more comfortable waiting than making a policy against it at this point. I just feel like it is so new that we just don't know what, yeah, I mean, I guess I have more issues with obnoxious alcohol use than, so I'm fine with a wait and see attitude personally.
I may be the only person my age or younger who's never tried it, but I've never been bothered by it either, so.
So would that then be the same as the alcohol policy, basically?
Mm-hmm.
Which gives you grounds for intervention and grounds for letting it go.
Okay,
Well, if you follow the drinking ordinance, then, I mean, that has that has rules built into it so that if you're an unruly drinker, I mean, you can do something about it. But if you got 20 people around a campfire smoking marijuana, you're not gonna do anything about it. If somebody's next to them that complains, like a family camper next to them, you know, that's my whole thing about it is, you know, I don't know. The city has laid out areas within our public lands. So if we exempt the rec park and say, well, the rec park's okay place to go, then, I mean, I'm not trying to be so negative on it, but I'm just trying to say I think it's easier to follow what the city's already doing throughout the public lands within this corridor of the town. And then to exempt the rec park on a wait-and-see thing, I guess you could do that if you want. I'm probably have a tendency not to do that, simply because of what Dave says. You're not giving him any, what can he do? Well, we have to wait till the next park board meeting, or maybe two. Well, we already did the reading, so the ordinance would be in place. It would just be adding it to the ordinance. But I don't know, we have a lot of families in the rec park, and I just think that, you know, this kind of thing is not a healthy family. More of a nuisance than anything, in my opinion, but that's just my opinion. But. And also, we talked about federal lands within our community. There's no marijuana use in any federal lands, federal campsites, campgrounds. Areas within our city that we use federal money for, if we get federal money. I think those are kind of some concerns of mine, because the federal government hasn't legalized it. So we're kind of walking a line on some of our federal issues. I'm not sure how that's going to play out, but I think it'll take time to get through all of that, obviously. But, you know, anyway, that's just my viewpoint on it.
does anybody have a motion they want to make today? Or shall we do nothing formal and see what happens to the federals and see what happens in our park and come back to it the next time somebody wants to talk about it? Is that, I'm hearing that as being the likely view of the group.
Well, see what happens seems real slushy to me.
It was intended to be.
I know.
You know, if things happen that people are really unhappy about, we'll probably have to do something, won't we?
But the alcohol policy allows you to let people drink in their campsite.
Mhm.
How about in public spaces?
I don't know.
Because the sheriff said, if he sees that you have a beer down on Broadway, they'll tap you. If you have a container that's not labeled, they won't tap you.
Yeah, I don't know what the park open liquor fine print is on outside of your campsite, but, you know, walking down to the beach.
I'm not sure if the park has a ordinance on open container in the rec park that follows or is somewhat familiar with what the city has for like sidewalks and streets.
I don't think we do. If I were to guess, we don't.
Yeah.
So back to your staff, I mean, who would be getting these? Just the people that answer the phones or people walking in?
Complaints or?
Yeah, complaints.
Just the front desk.
Yeah, so they would be asked to take it to you, or they would just they have a script of what to say. So everybody's saying the same thing to the people that are complaining?
So the city says no cannabis in public spaces, basically. So if we said no cannabis in public spaces, that would leave a lot of wiggle room that you could use to negotiate where you could do it.
Well,
Wouldn't necessarily want that.
the city outlines zones specific, the city outlines specific zones throughout the city that this ordinance applies to.
And it only applies to the beach in the park, as I understand that.
Correct, yeah, it applies to the
Protected resource.
protected resource zone, which is the Point, Artist Point, Lighthouse. Well, the lighthouse actually is federal land, so,
Yeah.
yeah. Break wall.
The truth is, if you're smoking at the lighthouse, hardly anybody's gonna know that. In the park, that's a little different issue.
Well, yesterday they were smoking it and it was illegal. Today they're smoking and it's legal, so it's like, so the discussion where it's all, yeah. You're right.
Yeah, and I mean, honestly, we have a lot of smells down there. We have cigarette smoke, we have campfire smoke.
Campfire smoke,
We have garbage, sewer. I mean, there's just a lot of things to be sensitive to. And yet, we don't hear a lot of complaints about garbage and cigarette and sewer.
I'm worried that we're not gonna have time to give Gabriel's material a sufficient time. Would it be reasonable, Dave, to ask you to, and the staff, to take a look at the issues that have been raised in the meeting today and come back to us with a recommendation, whether it's do nothing or something,
I think that's
for the next
more than
meeting?
reasonable, Steve, yep.
Okay, let's do that.
all right.
The next item is the Parks Report, which is not long and positive.
Yeah, I'll just give a breeze through on this. Numbers are still really positive. July was up just I think the matter of the rate hike, 3% up on July. But that's putting us on a good trend. How we've seen this for the last 6 months now, we're up about 9% year to date. So that's really, really good news. The landing's coming along very nicely. I don't know if anyone had a chance to see it yet. The concrete is practically done.
It looks good.
Yep, you can see the size, you can see the scale, the site's rough graded. They'll be coming back to do the stone veneer, and then there's a subcontractor coming in August to do the arbor and the metal work. The council approved a $7,500 honorarium to the Morrison family. We're working on the details of that. And then the new Parkside access is very busy, very popular place. The boaters are really using it now that the water has warmed up, there's salmon on the surface. We're seeing about a dozen truck trailer combos down there on the weekends. Plenty of spots, plenty of room. There's about 30 parking spots down there. So far so good. Just had some real random people pulling up to the sidewalk, parking right in the middle of the launching zone and taking a stroll. It's inevitable, but one of these new facilities we're definitely monitoring, and possibility for more signage, although I'm not a big fan of over-signing places, especially for those that don't pay attention to signs. So the good news is, I think, very positive from the boater's perspective. I'm a boater. I use that facility myself. It's just very safe, very smooth, and really accomplished a lot of goals down there as far as safe boat launch and then inviting public space. The sidewalk is constantly walked, so deterring any of the seagulls from landing on it or making a home on it. So there's a lot of success down there.
Cool.
That's all I have.
Does anybody have any questions or comments on the parks report before we move on to the master plan? If not, we'll move on to the master plan. Gabriel, are you still there? Oh, yes, we see you now.
All right, Dave, should I go ahead and share my screen?
Yes, please. Yeah, I've got,
Okay.
so everyone's got big copies of the concepts that came across today. We can follow along on the table here as you walk us through on the screen.
We've lost the closed captions.
Well, it creates a much smaller screen. Do you feel you want them? I can put them back up, Steve, but the screen will go small. Like this small, you know?
Well, you know what? I think it's more important that people see the map than that I read.
That's
I
right.
can hear most of what happens. Let's try it without for the moment.
Okay. There we go.
All right, ready?
Yep.
Hello. Okay, so I'm showing on the screen the existing conditions base map. So a lot of the time that we've spent over the past few weeks has been looking at the GIS data, some of the new features like the DNR boat launch, and trying to get all the existing conditions up to date. So hopefully this map is pretty good. We might have a few more things that need to be added or adjusted, but this is bringing everything up to date as to what is there today. So the trail on the west side shows where that other trail is no longer there, that goes to the edge of the property. We've added the layout of the community connection, which is just small up here, added where the new Gitchigami Trail is, things like that. This next map here, we started to identify some of the issues and opportunities that have been discussed over the past few months. So addressing entrance signage for both vehicles and pedestrians, making the circulation a little more clear throughout the site, increasing the size of the marina to make boat movement easier and addressing water quality, moving or rehabilitating the historic features of Fish House and the DG, and then adding interpretive signage where available. Addressing crowding and capacity of campsites, which is something that you'll see we have not addressed specifically in the concept plans, but it's something that we are acknowledging as an issue. Adding another picnic shelter or more picnic areas. Addressing the contamination on the previous public works site. Updating or relocating the rec hall and playground, adding a DNR trailhead and marina parking, and then making the entrance to the nature trail near the sledding hill more legible and welcoming in that area. So that's not comprehensive, but lists several of the major issues and opportunities that have been brought up. Then we have a first concept. So we agreed at the last meeting we would develop two concepts. One is light touch, and the second one has some bigger moves. So this is concept one, which is the lighter touch. We're keeping all campsites except we're removing one, which is near the check-in office, just to increase that turnaround area. I'm going to go to the next slide because it's a little closer up, but this shows the full park area. So this next one you can see in more detail. Let's see, number one is the softball diamond. So we're proposing to leave that as is since it is still utilized. The new green space along the shore due to parking lot removal next to the marina. So we're proposing that this is no longer used for parking and that it will be more green space where the new picnic shelter is there. We're proposing updating all the bathhouses throughout the campground, improving the vehicle path around where the office is. So this is where the one site would be removed in order to make that larger turnaround. We're proposing to improve the marina and add approximately 20 boat slips by reconfiguring the break wall and then armoring the harbor. This black line here shows the extent of the armored shoreline from the 2009 plan. So we're showing that in approximately the same location. We are suggesting a new rest area and picnic tables here where the star is. So this would be the DNR trailhead combined with marina parking. So much larger parking lot there. Showing trees added throughout the campsite where there's space available, and then rec hall and playground, either replacement and relocation or improvements in the current location. Then I'll go to concept 2. So this has some bigger moves that were talked about at the last meeting. So looking at this closer graphic here, you can see we've removed this first row of campsites. It's approximately 16 campsites, a little reconfiguration up here so that they're not exactly in the same spot, but removing approximately 16 sites, and then also the one up here, so that'd be approximately 17 sites removed, showing a more continuous pathway. So this would be a wider walk, more green with green space on either side, showing playground and a couple additional picnic shelters in this area along the shoreline. In addition, we're showing the same improvements as listed in concept 1. So the trailhead, the rec hall, playground improvements, bathhouse improvements, marina improvements. And then I included the 2009 concept in these slides just for reference to show how some of these other moves were made. We are showing approximately the same footprint of the marina parking. We have not added these campsites or removed the softball fields or made the larger campground and marina office building. So.
Could I ask what I hope is a simple question? The major difference between concept 1 and concept 2 is the question of removing some lots so as to permit a pedestrian trail. That's the big difference, is it?
Yes.
Is there anything else that's different between the two concepts?
No, we're showing the same improvements and additions besides that. Yep, that's the one major difference.
One other question, and that is, a minister who apparently sails a lot and who apparently knows Dave well, used to be the pastor out in Fargo and has sailed here many times, was proposing to me, as we were talking, backing boats in instead of, and so you could have twice the number of boats for the same dock space. I wonder if that isn't worth taking a look at as a way of either saving money or expanding facilities or both. And whether that's a good idea, I don't know whether or not it is. I know, he tells me that that's the way they do it in the Mediterranean everywhere.
Backing boats. Okay. Dave, do you have input on that?
Yeah, it's med mooring. It's, known as Mediterranean mooring. You throw out an anchor and you back down on a dock. It takes skill and a little ramp to get off the back of your boat, and I think it's way too far down the road to consider tonight. But tonight we're looking at spatial use and sort of bubble concept, I would say, especially for the marina area. I just know, in particular, the break wall is going to take some pretty major analysis, wave analysis, technical engineering. It's a very, windy, wavy corner already. And so the portrayal of the break wall itself right now is very, I would say, just vague or rough or unengineered. And the same would be said for the docks themselves, that there's going to be a whole nother round, multiple rounds of technical study and engineering if and when we are improving the marina, and that for the sake of tonight's discussion, it's just spatial allocation.
So you're saying that we don't have to talk about which way the boats moor in
Right.
order to talk about the plan?
How much space can we give
Space,
them?
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
And so just on a blush of the break wall itself right now, that portrayal, I don't feel would be the finest, like the finished product. It wouldn't reflect, after wave analysis of the basin, because of the non-overlapping outer break walls, the lighthouse and the green can have a huge amount of space between them. The southern storms and waves pound this corner relentlessly. We see that now with the amount of like beach gravel that's shoaled up in this corner where the break wall is currently dead ending. It's a very active zone of wave action, and we could really spend a lot of time on the break wall and what size and what it's going to take to protect that corner. Right now we're just guessing, but it's
Okay,
part of the process.
sorry for the interruption, Gabriel, go ahead, please.
Well, those are all the slides I have, so this is open to discussion on those two concepts. Like Dave mentioned, from 2009, this was the concept, and then this is what that ended up like, so it could be very different once it's fully designed. But in terms of what we're proposing on the moves, a lot of the suggestions are pretty straightforward and probably not controversial, so looking for input from this group tonight on if we want to move forward with these two concepts and present them to the public in a little more detail, or if we'd like to make any major changes. Is there interest in suggesting more campsites somewhere else in the park? If we're taking some out, or even in concept one, is there any interest in adding more campsites in addition to what is currently there? Any other thoughts about what we discussed at the last meeting, but did not show here because we're taking a little more light touch approach with concept one, and then somewhat of a bigger move with concept two. So looking for input on how these concepts are in terms of overall feeling and what we're going to present to the public.
How many sites are lost with concept 2?
About
17.
17?
Yeah.
And those are high-value campsites?
The Gold Coast.
Yeah.
And there's adding approximately 20 boat clubs. So
When we're talking
these
about
aren't exactly equal.
Gabriel, when we're talking about concept two, we need to talk about what the revenue impact of it is. Whether we decide to do it or not, separate question, but we should know what we're buying. The other thing I would note is I'm looking at concept one, there's already a beach that walks all the way through. Are there any impediments to people walking from one end of the shore to the other?
Well, it's loose cobblestone, so it's not suitable for,
Say it again.
it's loose cobblestone, which is not suitable for people with limited mobilities or disabilities or wheelers or rollers. It's like a bit treacherous at times with wave action too. The beach is,
So if people who were in wheelchairs would have to use the road that's behind
Right.
there, is that a fair
that's
statement?
right. That's the current setup. It's just a shared space. It's a park road only, so it, just the other day, we were down there walking, and it's very easy to walk. And then there's the point of, like, the other 9 months of the year, it's incredibly easy to walk. Like, there's a very seasonal approach to this, where the park itself is empty of campers 8 months, well, 6 months for sure, November to April. May and October are pretty quiet relative to June through September. So we have the 4-month busy season. We have really a 2-month extreme peak of July and August, which we're in right now. So the park's as full as it's going to be. But from my perspective, or my use of the park, it's a pedestrian corridor on that front right now. On that road down front is more pedestrians than cars on any given day, and pedestrians with bikes and dogs and strollers, and cars know this more or less. There's a right of ways that we all just, no one really drives that front row except the campers in those sites, and it's more of a pedestrian flow. But we've heard from the community, they don't feel the same often, that they don't have that familiarity with the park like I do, where I just am there every day, so I don't mind. I bike all around that park constantly with no issues of cars, but it's because it's my backyard, it's my summer place, so I'm not the one to give opinions here. But if you go down and walk around, you can see the scale, you can see the size of that road and the beach, and it's quite open right now. There's
Are there any limits on how fast cars drive within the
yes,
rec
the
park?
speed limit is posted 5 for the
5.
side roads and 10 for 8th Avenue. And for the most part, it's respected. We almost inevitably have the contrast of like the campers drive very slow, but the locals cruise through there fast. The high school kids, I mean, I hate to pick on them, but they're the, you know, cruising around, showing off, driving fast crowd. And we're giving them the slow down signs. But yeah, it's a posted 10 on 8th and 5 on the ancillary roads. And because of the density and the crowding, you have to drive slow. I mean, you know, but like a softball night, when they're playing beer league in the field, we know because they're speeding down 8th. They're just flying in and out of 8th Avenue locals. And so there is a pinch point on this trail, on this walk. It's at the culvert, you know, sort of where at the pavilion, at the current picnic pavilion location, about where number 7 is. Right? You can see how this front row rejoins 8th Avenue. And there is a narrow, too many cars, too many people right there. So there's definitely the need for like a pedestrian sidewalk or bridge or some extra room on that 8th Avenue pinch point where the stormwater creek is flowing out. And you know, we've got that scheduled to be repaved. So maybe we
Yeah, did they?
haven't put
sorry
it
to
out for bid
interrupt,
yet.
but They had to engineer that, correct? Or are
Yeah, yeah,
Are they proposing?
but just an overlay.
Okay, no culvert.
No.
Okay.
And now would be the time to maybe
Why?
think about that, yeah,
Yeah.
or not, but yeah.
Right.
So the plans haven't been finalized, they haven't been put out for bid, but it was just a simple overlay of the existing like 30-some foot wide road.
Or we would have to add a walkway
Yep, you need a bigger
beside the
culvert.
culvert that's there.
Yep,
If we want to make an extra space for pedestrians to
Yeah.
get them from walking on the road,
correct.
to make it wider.
So that seems like an obvious, like, circle that area, because it's not pedestrian friendly.
Okay.
I ride my bike through there 2 or 3 times a week, and that triangle right by number 7 is where you have all the car pedestrian, bike interaction.
Mm-hmm.
I made a couple of, didn't mean to, but made a couple of kids stop really quick rather than run over me yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
And that is a complicated area that could be straightened out.
Definitely.
When you say straightened out, what do you mean?
Well, just,
Widened.
well, or make the traffic flow more obvious. And it's pretty easy coming down 8th to want to go straight. It's real easy coming from the bulk of the camping sites when you're going east to want to curve and then go up 8th uninhibited and run across some poor elderly biker coming down there on his bicycle, which would be me.
So what will we do different then?
I don't know, stoplight or something, I don't know.
No. No, just like a
It could be more
designated,
clear,
a wider,
A designated pedestrian walkway. 'cause
Yeah.
we don't
could be
have-
more clear.
Right.
That triangle is really difficult to navigate.
yep.
I have a question about the the parking area over by 2, you know, right at the east end there. When on both plans, and we're talking about eliminating that. And I'm just curious what kind of kickback to
Yeah.
anticipate about that. Is that just more a convenience for people to park close to their boats? Because their boats are already in the water. It's not that they're putting their boats in the water there.
Right. Yep, it's definitely a luxury to be able to park right next to that dock and access the boat. And it's seasonals that are in that space now. We have about 20 seasonal slips, and we see about 20 vehicles down there. There are couple of charter boats working out of the marina, so their guests come in and park there as well. You know, an extra 2 or 3 per charter will be parked down there in the mornings or afternoons as well. So it's very active parking right now. There's about 20, like I say, and those folks would not be happy to lose their spot right next to the dock. We would still need to make provisions for an unloading zone
Yeah.
and for handicap parking. So it's not quite, I feel like this isn't, we can't just do away with parking and access to the marina docks. There still needs to be a drop-off zone. There still needs to be handicap parking down there.
And then conceivably, they would need to go back and park over at the trailhead and marina parking. Yeah.
Sure, but I was down in Silver Bay last weekend for some hockey camp, and I went down to the Silver Bay Marina just to check it out, and it's, all the parking is well above the docks. You can drive down and drop off, but they have
Right.
multiple tiers of parking above, because they have like 120-some slips. So they have like 3 surface lots, they're all well back from the docks. Slip holders get sort of the closest, but it's still above the office, hundreds of yards from the dock,
Yeah.
and then the guests accordingly. So, and this is a pretty common layout across the basin here where I've been to lots of marinas. None of them you can park right next to the
Yeah.
dock, unless you're handicapped.
Number 6 on both concepts is the trailhead and marina parking. What's there now?
That parking, there's an old pool parking lot that's paved, that's like good for about 20 or so vehicles. Our staff parks there, overflow parking parks there.
But this looks to be bigger than that.
Yeah, the above zone where it's gravel was the site of the old pool. So right now it's just class 5 gravel, and it had been various uses. We've put seasonal boat trailers in
We
there.
are talking about cutting down a ton of trees. it
No,
sounds
it's
like.
open space right
already
now.
open.
Okay.
It's
Thank you.
open, it's open gravel. So there's maybe, spatially, I haven't said, well, we could park 100 cars there. I doubt it. Maybe it's more like 50.
And I was just like, neither one or two addresses the contaminated soils areas, just leaving it there as is. And is that because it's just too expensive?
Well, it's a longer process of discovery first. I've been making some inquiries onto what we know, what the current sort of knowledge is on that contamination based on the power plant cleanup about 20 years ago. So we had a phase 1, I believe that's what you're asking about, Gabrielle, about a phase 1 assessment. And yes, that was complete, or that was performed when the power plant was removed and monitoring wells went in, and I should hope to get the results of that, which is just that initial, like, here's what we think is in the ground. Whether or not, how we clean it up is not, I think, is that phase 2, I'm not with the
Yeah, there would need to be
MPCA.
another phase to determine the cost and the needs for.
But in the future, I mean, it's possible area that could be used for something,
Right.
obviously, There's a lot of contaminated areas that get cleaned up and get used.
We did, when the DNR and the city were planning the boat launch, there was a little bit of inquiry into this as to what would be best, and the decision was to cap this site, to put concrete, or, pavement over it actually, to prevent further leaching of the contaminants into the water table. Because this sits so close to the lake, and the lake level is, 6 or 8 feet under, the stuff sits in profile, and it's already leaching down with, rainwater. And then there was some engineer speak about going in there and just, trying to remove it is gonna disturb it and possibly release it. And this was just strictly, I think, anecdotal, but the DNR was recommending it be paved.
As a way to reduce the leaching.
Leave it, yeah.
Sort of cap it. But again, that didn't happen due to budget. That area sits sort of open and gravel and great views. We have campsites now that are above that to the north that now have great views of the lake. And that, I guess I could point out as a potential area for additional sites on what are very viewy, the viewy corner across from the pavilion. Right now it's a group site, but it's that big kind of yellow thumb right off the road, right next to the parking lot. That's a group campsite now. We sell it to tenters for $8 a night. It returns very little annually because of that. Scout groups and motorcycle groups use it, and we see maybe we make 5,000 per year on that space, on that corner space. But we know right across the street where the campsites are and the RV sites are, we're making close to 5,000 per site. And there's easily room on that corner for 6 or 8 or 10 more sites.
You mean on the east side of the road there?
On the west side. As you're going into the parking lot,
Yeah.
on the west side, on the
Oh.
right side.
Oh, where those trees are?
It's
Driven
just,
or drawn?
just kind of the blob right now. It's this right here.
Oh, yeah.
You think there's room for,
Several sites.
are you
If-
talking
if
camping
we
sites
pave
or
it over,
RV
it's-
sites? Rigging sites?
RV sites,
Go ahead, Matt.
you know,
Full hookup sites.
yeah.
Full
well,
hookup sites, there you go.
Maybe, but there's not sewer or water there currently. On that corner itself, it would need some in-ground work.
Yeah.
But when we upgraded right to across the street there, we put in sewer about 10 years ago, and we oversized some of the manholes with the anticipation of like tying into the south.
If we followed the DNR recommendation to pave over the contaminated area, that would make it pretty poor for camping, would it not?
Yeah, no, we wouldn't pave any more down there.
Has anybody made any other suggestions for how to deal with that site? We don't qualify for super funds?
You might, we don't know. Might, I don't know. We might, I said.
Maybe it would be worth checking?
Yeah, so I don't know if you followed that, Gabrielle, but the corner that's like west and north of the new DNR boat launch ramp, that's currently just a group tent site, yeah, right there, yeah. That has potential for more RV sites, prime RV sites, maybe as a way to offset some of the loss on the front row. That would be, and you know, back to your question, Steve, about the revenue loss, the finances of all these ideas. I'm not in a position to answer any of this. I've been thinking about this for a while, but I can't just give you a number with any confidence on what it would cost to lose those 17 sites. Maybe it wouldn't, just being hypothetical, maybe we wouldn't lose any because our treatment of the next row up, of the ones that are above this promenade, are the prime. And we would reset them and resize them and upgrade them and make them very flat and very fancy and charge $150 a night for them. And this is, again, just super hypothetical talk, but
So what we would lose would be, in effect, the second row money rather than first row money.
there's just, I don't feel there's not a lot of accuracy in any kind of guesstimating of what we're gonna make or what we're gonna lose based on some of these moves. I mean, obviously, if we're talking about taking out 50 sites or 100 sites, that's much more macro and I think easy to put some numbers to the loss. But when we're talking about these numbers of 10 or 15 or 20 sites, I can't give you any financial repercussions not knowing the future and what we've heard about aesthetics and economics and the prime sites and the value of the prime sites. And what the overnight rate pays versus the seasonal rate even. I mean, if we really want to get into the weeds here and don't want to lose money, we got to look at the site classification itself. And if it's a seasonal site versus an overnight site, right? And because there's a big difference in price and return. And so if you're worried about the finances, yes, I get that. That's very important. But I can't give you sound numbers on losses and wins, not knowing the future of that site. And if it's a nightly site that's in a very prime spot that's been improved and is 2,000 square feet and has a granite sand pad and free Wi-Fi, you know, we're going to be able to charge much more than we're charging now. And so I'm sorry to say, it's a bigger discussion, it's a longer discussion, and for the sake of tonight, I think we're more into those concept site use.
Before we before we were to get rid of those 17 sites, it seems to me that there are assumptions one can make and numbers one can attach to those assumptions. And so we can at least get some idea of what the range of possible outcomes are depending upon the future that might occur or that we choose to make occur. I mean, I don't think assigning numbers to hypotheticals is all that difficult as long as we decide what the hypothetical facts are.
Yeah. I know.
So, before we get to the question of do we get rid of the 17 sites, we certainly need to have those numbers in front of us, I would think.
Well, it doesn't sound like, it's kind of apples and oranges. We
Well,
don't, it's not
I
that,
I disagree with the way David's describing it. What I'm hearing him say is it's hard work. But what I'm saying is
No.
I've dealt with all kinds of circumstances where there are hypothetical expectations and you change the assumptions and the numbers change. And then we ought to have some idea of what the range of outcomes is.
Yeah, I hear you, Steve. It's not straight math is what I'm trying to say. It's like, I can tell you what those sites make last year, and it's $150,000.
I'm not looking for straight math. I'm looking for a combination of math applied to different assumptions.
So we can put together high-level cost estimates in terms of the cost to make these improvements, as well as including that potential revenue, estimated revenue based on previous years. I don't know that that's something you want to show when presenting these back to the public. I mean, we could include bullet points about potential revenue loss from approximately this many campsites, potential revenue gain from improving blah, blah, blah. We can put together that analysis at a high level. This is really up to you as to what you want to get feedback on from the public. And then for what goes into the final preferred master plan, you can take that input from the public and then you make the final decision on what goes into the plan. So right now, we're not deciding what will go into the final plan. We're deciding on what we're going to show the public. So
That's a good point.
if this is a non-issue, if you as a group are opposed to removing any campsites, then we don't want to show the second option to the public. But if it's something you're willing to consider, maybe it's a long-term option that you're willing to get feedback on because of what we heard in the initial round of input, then we could show it.
One other question, Gabriel, and that is you have a number of red spots on the concepts that are potential places for signage and interpretive signage. Do you have any recommendations as to which ones are which ones are wayfinding and which ones are interpretive or both?
I think we would include interpretive at all of them if possible. We could put together some images of precedent showing, like this one would definitely be the entrance to the nature trail, and then might also have a small interpretation along with it, and then this might be more wayfinding. So we can put that together in terms of exactly which sign would have which, and then categorize them. I believe we have to make a signage and wayfinding plan as part of the Greater Minnesota Master Plan, so we'll need to identify a list of proposed signs. We have not done that yet, but yep, we can add that.
so, I think presenting both of these as options to the public is a good idea. People like to choose, I think they, rather than just presenting one thing and then having people react to that. Personally, I think they're good. I like that they're not that different. I mean, I know there's significant differences between them, but I feel like we know some directions we have to go down, and this covers a lot of that. So I think they're good.
I would agree that both of them are good to present to the, present to the public.
Do I assume that there will be estimates of cost for the various proposals as part of our presentation to the public and to ourselves?
So a cost estimate is required as part of the master plan. We usually do that after we've developed the preferred plan. We could do high-level cost estimates for these. It's not typical that we show that to the public. If you'd like to, we could develop one for each concept since they won't be that different.
If the only really big difference between concept 1 and concept 2 is the question of whether the sites are taken out, it would seem that starting the process of thinking about what it's going to cost, for example, to expand the trailhead and marina parking, that sort of thing would be a useful thing to do.
Yep, we can start that process. Do you want to show the cost estimates to the public?
What was the question?
Do you want to show the cost estimates to the public?
Is there any reason not to?
Well, there's the risk
Well,
that it's,
they're gonna change it.
they're estimates and
Yeah.
They're gonna
sometimes you
change.
get a lot of questions
Plus or
on
minus.
the numbers, and so
Yeah.
it's hard
How you do
to
a cost estimate.
defend them. And
Mhm.
sometimes they,
It's a number,
people might get lost in the cost rather than the bigger picture. So-
right.
And they're definitely gonna change over 3, 4, 5, 6 years.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Well, the big item would be the marina work, would it not?
Mm-hmm, exactly.
And that's what, the main reason we're doing the plan, and we'd like to have the money for that sooner than later, so attaching some money to that one might be some, better than some other things that we would do.
I've been going with $10 million.
Pardon?
I've just been throwing out 10 million as a way to say it's just so big that it doesn't matter yet.
It's true.
That's a good
We have
point.
no clue.
Right.
Plus, we'd have to, projects have to be prioritized and,
And like you
Army
said,
Corps' got to be involved,
yeah.
wave analysis, break wall. It was 3 million to do the little boat launch.
Okay,
The break wall itself was 1 million.
okay.
Say it was $1 million for the break wall and 3 for
Or
the
sorry,
boat launch?
2 million for the break wall, 1 million for the parking lot.
Oh, okay. That included the boat launch part?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
That was 2021 prices. So I would say don't get too big into the numbers yet. It's more the spatial
Yeah.
site use.
Right,
yeah,
Treatment.
Priorities.
And maybe, and like, to back up on the framing of concept 2, it's not just eliminating campsites, it's creating public green pedestrian space. Right? It gets a double edge there where it's not just the loss of campsites, it's creation of public park space. But we know this, we go down there and walk ourselves, and it's very prime space.
Do you anticipate that the legacy fund would likely be more generous with us if we had the trail created rather and lost the campsites?
I'm not worried about that. It's the public we're accountable to.
The what?
The public we're accountable to. No, I think
Say that one more time, Mike.
I'm not worried how Legacy or the regional designation considers those moves. They're more interested, I think, in our overall position as a
Okay.
access to Lake Superior. And so, yeah, maybe it's a feather that it's easier to access it for all, and not just a paying renter. But we currently have that set up. I mean, it's a public park right now. You can stroll it all you want. The marina's, obviously sort of on everybody's radar for improvements and, regional designation.
So if I understand what you're saying, that creating that walkway is not something that's going to make a big difference to the legacy funding question, one way
I
or the
can't
other.
answer for them, but yeah, I wouldn't hold that as the reason to do it.
Right, got it.
But there is local pressure for that.
Go ahead.
and against it.
and against it. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm sitting here, I'm looking at, I'm sitting in one chair and I can count 10 trees in front of me. And all I hear is we need more green space, more green space. I live in green space. Grand Marais is green space, period. Now, this is my opinion, not as a city council member or anything, my opinion. We have a walkway / road that already follows through the park there. You know, and for every year of my life living in this town, I've never had a problem walking through the rec park, August or October. I don't really see the advantage of taking out these campsites unless you guys are looking at getting rid of density and trying to make campsites wider or more pleasurable for the renter. Maybe you can get more money for them. I don't know. But then I did hear the public say we want a park. We want more of a park. Well, this isn't a park setting like you might look at a park in a big city where you have a block that's nothing but green, yard, lawn. This is a business operation for the city of Grand Marais to a certain point, and yet it's a facility where the public can walk through here. They can use the beach. Most people go to the beach. That's where they're on the beach. And we're already providing that now and in concept 1 and in concept 2. I guess I don't, my issue, I guess, if the big thing is pedestrian movement, pedestrian walkways or whatever we're talking about here, why can't something like that be added to what's already there? I mean, I'm just throwing that out there. Why can't, you know?
You mean put a line on the thing that says people walk
Well, I
there,
mean,
cars go there?
if it's worrisome to walk on the road, it never has been that I know of, but I mean, I'm just, you know, if you're trying to get people from over here to over here to over to the walkway up to the overlook area, I don't think a lot of our issues right now is just signing people and trying to show them where it is and where to go. A lot of our problem right now. But I'm not too gung-ho on number 2 here. That's just my thinking. I don't, you know, and then if you plant all these trees down here, now you take away the visibility of the lake from your campers, so I kind of worry about that. They don't come up here, they come up here to look at the lake. I don't know what kind of trees we're going to be planting there, but I just look at visibility, and I also look at safety within the park. Too many trees in an area where there's campers and people trying to maneuver vehicles is sometimes not a positive thing for people in campers and tents.
I tend to agree with Craig, and
I'm just
it
looking
occurred
at
to me that the one thing we haven't talked about is how we might restrict traffic on there with a sign that said residents only. That's already what happens, right? Basically, only residents are using that as a driving road. Why not just say so and make it a park rule so that any stranger who might comes in isn't, at least is discouraged from doing that? You don't believe in people being discouraged. I believe that about 1/3 of them won't be, but 2/3 will.
Well, I think most people that drive through there, I drive through there quite a bit because I'm interested at what's going on at the marina and just looking at how the park is doing. But I also know that when I drive down there, I am not going to be going very fast. I'm driving slow because that's just what you have to do. It's a highly dense area and you just
So
gotta be
residents
safe.
and official business only then.
I guess so. Yeah, I don't know, I just, I don't know, I understand we have to give something for everybody to look at, and that's a good thing too, but, I don't know, I'm looking at prime camping sites, and yeah, there's a way to reorganize and redo those, but it's hard to put a number on what that would do, you know, I mean, I'm looking at like, when you do a report like today, our volume is up 3%, but that's what we raised, our rates was 3%, so, you know, you can only rent 100 spaces, 100 spaces. You can't rent 150 if you only have 100, so that's kind of important to look at. The only way you're gonna get more revenue is just keep raising prices, I mean, which seems to be the trend on everything right now.
The trees between 7 and 2 don't exist, right? Those are to be planted trees?
No, I wouldn't say that, Bob.
Yeah.
It's,
Trees
there-
there.
there's trees between 7 and the Niji. The ones between the Niji and 2 might be new.
Did you say between 7 and 2?
Right.
Yeah, on the waterfront right now.
Okay.
There's some pretty
Those
good-
trees are not there now, is that?
Well, no, there's tree cover, especially around the Niji Fish House area.
Right.
Those trees exist. And then there's another few clumps of them down that beach on the way to 7. So of the trees portrayed on this, there's pretty good tree cover in those, between 7 and the Niji Fish House corner. But then above that, to the east, between the Niji corner and the number 2, where the parking's been eliminated from the marina, that shows new tree.
Yeah, because that's
you know,
parking, that's
Yeah.
open space right now,
Yeah.
most of that.
So the walkability of 7 to 2 could be improved as an adjunct to the road by adding something to the road.
Off, yeah.
Widening the road, adding a pedestrian path, something like that, without taking any lots out.
Adding a shoulder that might be painted
Yeah.
for pedestrians over here,
And
vehicles. And, yeah,
Pedestrian bike, I mean, and that's
Yeah.
pretty common to have.
If we need to do, I mean, you know, we've never,
But if you
I mean,
need
it's been multi-use for years and years and years. I'm just,
Gabriel, I think they're onto something. We ought to take a look at the
Well-
physics of it and see if it's wide enough to paint lines or whether we have to widen it.
What I run into riding my bike along there is not cars, it's people walking down the middle of the road.
right.
And if they would walk on the lakeside, then the pedestrian bike traffic, alleged auto concerns would be allayed. Because there aren't, I never see a car coming down there. It's always pedestrians, usually in groups and families, spread across the road.
But, so both of these plans, 1 and 2, both of them move parking for the marina,
Right.
no matter which one, I mean, that's what we're saying right now, that, I mean, that's kind of a given with either plan, is we're moving the parking,
Yes.
which is a big to-do for those people that, I mean, because right now they park right by their boats, and it's a big change for them, but that's,
Right.
but that's a big, I think that'd be the biggest issue with either one of these, is moving, which I think moving the parking is fine, because they don't have to park so close, but.
When you say they move parking from the marina, we're talking about the marina up here, right?
Correct. And then they're
And
moving it
and
to.
this is.
Correct.
Okay, where do they park there for now?
Right where your finger is.
Right in front
Right
of
where your
the-
finger is.
Right in front of the slips.
Park right there.
Where it says 2?
Yep.
Yes.
Basically, right where it says 2.
Due to parking lot removal. The parking lot isn't very big there, is it?
Well,
No,
you get 15 cars.
Okay.
yeah, maybe if you're.
Yeah, we counted 15 the other day.
Oh, did you? Wow.
What kind of traffic movement do we have from the marina parking to the marina? How are they gonna go to get there?
I'm not sure on that one.
What kind of pedestrian traffic? Yeah, like the pedestrian route from the marina parking across the street of the office down to the marina is, that's a good eye, Steve. It's undefined. It's not an established like sidewalk from the parking lot back to the marina.
Right.
You gotta cut through the office area,
They'd have
sort
to
of.
walk down on the street.
So there she's got a good picture of the parking right now up there. You can see the cars there. And that's,
We would want the path that we want the boats and trailers to take to be well-signed and indicated and not
but
random, right?
Well, boat trailer
No
traffic's all
trailers.
going to the end. That's going to the launch. When you're launching out with the boat truck trailer
we're
combo,
going down here.
you're all
Okay,
set.
so the.
No trailers
The
up here.
marina parking, what's that for? Not for launching?
Slip holders.
Pardon?
No, the slip holders in the marina, the boat's already in the water, right?
Right.
They have a seasonal slip on the docks.
Okay, so they're not gonna be driving their boats between the two places?
No.
Okay, so what you're saying is they will have launched their boat down here and parked it at the marina and walked back to their car, or take their car back there?
They only launch it once in the
Yeah.
spring and
These
then.
boats are in the
Yeah,
slips.
okay, I got it.
They're in the slips
Not
all
such a
summer.
big deal.
Yeah.
Okay,
But
They
good
gotta
eye
walk.
on like a established pedestrian flow from the Trailhead Marina parking
Right,
back to the marina.
that would make sense.
right.
That's
Right now,
currently
most of the
not
people use
portrayed.
that upper road.
That's a good point. Yeah, there's, how did they get back?
They gotta,
There's a red dot there by the fish house, is that what that is? Which, that looks like the shortest route is sort of starting from there and going up toward where the office is,
Office,
and then
yeah.
straight across. That looks like the shortest route. Is there any better route than that?
No.
I think that would be something that should be defined in either one of these plans.
I could
If we're
probably
taking their parking
visualize.
lot away, how are they gonna get back?
I could visualize
We can add the,
golf
we
carts
can
being
add
used.
colors to identify where there's vehicles allowed, where there are only pedestrians, bikes allowed, and where there's both.
Mm-hmm.
Does anybody have any other issues they want to raise between these two concepts? Or about these concepts, or anything else?
The
Before we
danger, the
decide
dangerous,
that we're getting close to timeout.
the dangerous part of that walk from marina parking to marina is crossing 8th Avenue, where people are coming down and going up occasionally at great speed.
We don't have the option of a tunnel or a bridge? Probably not.
I think that might be overkill, but
Yeah.
it is a high-risk area. If you're, either way you're going, it's a high-risk area.
Is that where the only speed bumps in the park should be?
Speed bumps are further down toward the lake.
We've tried speed bumps in the past. They haven't worked. They've actually created accidents with bicyclists.
noise, yeah. It's
People
signs.
cut around them. They make a lot of clanky, rackety clanky with trailers
Yeah.
going over them.
You know, the people of Grand Marais do a good job of observing pedestrian crosswalks. There ought to be a really well-marked crosswalk
There
across
is.
8th Avenue for that.
It just got painted last week. Bright white.
Yeah, good,
Between the parking lot and the office, there's already a crosswalk.
excellent.
I walk it 6 times a day. People always stop for me.
The Active Living Steering Committee spent 40 minutes today on what to do with First Avenue West, where cars and pedestrians and Buck's store all
Merge.
converge and things don't go well. And that'll come to the council separately, I think, from that group. Same kind of problem.
What should we draw from that about
That
this?
people don't observe crosswalks and traffic doesn't slow for pedestrians and pedestrians are random in their intrusion into traffic flow.
Yes.
So you can't assume that 8th Avenue can be crossed safely.
You can't assume.
Cannot assume that.
Well, that sort of makes the plan difficult, doesn't it, Bob?
No, it's just an acknowledgement, maybe an extra stop sign or,
There are going to be some people who won't stop for pedestrians. I agree that that's likely to happen. Yeah, okay. And the pedestrians hopefully will stop instead at that point.
yeah.
So what do we need to do to move forward?
Yeah, we're just trying to approve both of these concepts to be presented or expanded upon more as far as,
Next step?
the
Yep,
next step.
so Dave and I can work on making the adjustments that we've discussed tonight and then putting together a plan for the next round of engagement, which has not been defined yet, but we talked about September.
Dave doesn't like signage very much, from what I hear. And I don't think you should assume that that's going to be our decision. We ought to have your recommendations, whatever they are, and then we'll struggle with him over that question.
Well, here's something though, on timing and revisions and review and the pace and the schedule is like, do we feel as a group confident that we've had a good discussion tonight. We can do tweaks and changes as staff and consultant. And then would you be comfortable with the public engagement in September? Maybe after the September park board meeting, we could have I feel like we don't want to rush this. We don't want to put this back out to the public until we're very comfortable and ready. And so maybe we take the September park board meeting, the first Tuesday, I think it's the 5th, it's right after Memorial or Labor Day, or the 4th or 6th, or anyway, that first
Labor Day.
week, we could take another look at the changes from tonight's discussion for the final stamp of approval for like a special open house, maybe during radio waves, maybe in the mid-month of September. It's kind of what I'm thinking.
Sounds good.
How about you, Gabrielle?
And I don't think we
Okay.
necessarily have to solve all the signage issues between Dave and us and you before then. You know, we can leave it as red dots for now. It's just that we ought to have your recommendations about signage so we know what we're either voting for or against.
Yeah, I think we have the September park board meeting to do one more round of
I think
review,
that's a good idea.
and we'll be close.
It's August, yeah.
How's that sound?
That sounds good.
That'll give us more time to look at what we have here
Yeah.
too.
Right.
Yeah.
Pick
And
up.
so did we make some decisions on like cost estimating, and just for the sake of Gabrielle especially, not chasing, numbers that might not be relevant, like, should we not get too into that until we've got a approved concept? Because then it is important, that's part of the legacy funding is, how much you need, what are you gonna spend it on? I mean, that's really the capital improvement planning that's a part of this master plan is yet to come once we have the approved concept.
I would agree.
We can start to develop the cost estimate and have it in our back pocket in case
Right.
there's any desire to present a high-level summary of it to the public.
Yep, I like that.
Okay,
Because that break wall's gonna have to look more like a hockey stick. The way I drew it, I added a little bend to it.
Yeah, yeah, like you said, the marina, that there's
You
so
gotta
much
protect
wave
that,
analysis
you gotta
and stuff
protect that
there.
shoreline a little bit, so that's, you gotta keep that within the scope of a budget too. That's gonna,
Spending.
somewhat.
Spending.
Dave, has the DNR offered to fund a trailhead?
Have not asked.
Okay, so that's really hypothetical. But we think they would like one at some point.
I do have one other small thing about the graphics, and that is you've got the words community connection at the top between North House and us, but on where we are now, but there's nothing to show, at least I can't tell where the community connection is on the new concepts.
4 and 1 and 2.
Okay.
Yeah,
Add more labels.
it's not
And I-
labeled, but
And I think I know where they are based on my driving by it today, but it would be good if the concepts had where the community connection structure is and how it relates to the rest of it.
yeah.
Same with the covered bridge, right?
She shows it, it's right here.
Yeah, it shows it, but it's, yeah,
It shows it and shows the sidewalk going down and, both
It's
ways.
just not labeled.
just should label it, yeah.
You're talking about the thing that looks like a trail
Yeah.
that hooks back.
Bottom of 6.
Okay, but the construction itself isn't there, am I correct?
It's right up here.
And the covered bridge is not there.
I mean, is that the construction, that little teeny thing?
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, okay,
It's not
then
really-
maybe we just need the label with an arrow.
Yep, we can do that.
All right.
How you feeling on all this, Gabrielle?
Good, this is good feedback. So we'll start making the adjustments and then Dave, we can go back and forth on our notes and make sure we have everything included. Yeah, reconvene in September.
Great.
So, if I heard your answer correctly, you don't need more from us today.
That's correct.
And does anybody here have anything more they want to talk to Gabrielle about before we let her go off to dinner or whatever?
Don't let the idea of widening the road with a sidewalk or pedestrian option escape. That could be a little bit of a synthesis between 1 and 2 that would take some of the bite out of 2.
Yes.
Yes.
Should we build that into one?
Well, that would be
Well, I
a
think
compromise.
That'd probably make more sense, I guess.
It'd be a compromise, and it would take some energy from 2 and move it into 1, as long as there aren't trees that are already sacrificed. And it sounds like there aren't.
I don't think you're gonna sacrifice any trees, really. I
Yeah,
mean,
sounds like the trees that the sheep put in there don't really exist yet.
And then I was just noticing too
You can always
that,
add trees.
I like what he says.
Yeah.
I was just saying, concept 1, that triangle is still there, which Bob was mentioning about, but it's gone on
Yeah, that's
concept 2.
because it becomes a hiking path, but if you're gonna have if you're gonna have a road down there, you need that.
You have to
You
have
need you need that, because you can't make a right-hand turn or a left-hand turn without using it.
Okay.
If you gotta put a camper in that lower road.
I got
So
you.
it's, that road would have to stay. And there's also,
That makes sense.
Lift station.
a lift station right in that
Oh,
corner
right.
too. Yeah, well, not in the triangle, but right,
Right where that red dot is.
that's where that red dot is, that, there's a
Be a
lift
good
sta-
interpretive sign.
That's a lift station. That's why we're gonna put a sign, lift station.
How to get it to flow uphill.
Right,
Okay, now that makes sense.
yeah, that
That's
can't be
good.
moved, so that's gotta stay there, that
Okay.
lift station.
Are there any other board members who have things they want Gabriel to know before we let her go?
Triangle's not bad, it just needs to be, something needs to be
Stop it.
adjusted. Yeah.
Say it again.
The triangle's not bad, it just needs to be adjusted to be safer.
Okay.
I know, a roundabout, yeah.
Hey, there you go. That would take about a dozen sites right there.
And no one has to hit the brakes, you just keep on going.
Gabriel will put her thinking hat on and see if she can't make the triangle safer. All right, anything else
All right.
before we let her go?
No,
Thank you so much for coming. We'll see you in person next month, is that true or not?
Not in person,
Not
for the
next-
park board meeting,
Not until September?
right.
Okay.
Well, when we do like an open house or a public input session.
What's the temperature in the cities?
It's 86 right now. I just spent the past weekend at Madeline Island, and it was low 70s, and it was very comfortable. And then yesterday I got out of my car here, and it was, whew, furnace.
I was in Minneapolis at 97 last Thursday, and it was not hospitable at all.
We're cozy at 65 degrees.
It was 30 degrees cooler here. Yeah.
Yeah.
I keep trying to let her go, and you guys keep talking to her.
I know.
Let her go here one of these days.
Thanks, Gabrielle.
Okay, have a good night. Thank you.
All right, is there any new business?
I think she's on the job, not the hour, I think.
I'm talking about her supper time and
Our
suffering.
supper time.
All right, is there anything else we need to do? Is there anybody who objects to adjourning?
Nope,
Not seeing any objection, we are adjourned.
thank you.
Well, that was fun.